I think Charlton might be in the bottom 6 by Christmas.
Never trust Stoke.
I think he's everything that's good about football.
Sheffield Wednesday are just a really, really poor team.
I think the EFL have really got to clamp down on this. And
I'm just not buying the it's a long way to go narrative. Grow up.
Hello guys and welcome back to the Sportsman Untitled, brought to you by Betfred. We've had a slight change of plan in terms of guests today. Unfortunately, Eamon, our Watford fan, he's had to fly to Miami to speak to Anthony Joshua, but we've got just a suitable replacement because Gab Sutton is here along with Benjamin Bloom. We're going to look at the contenders for the top 2, who will finish second this season. We're going to look at the midweek fixtures as well and have a little chat about Leicester City and their impending points deduction. But I think, lads, we have to start at the top of the league, and I don't want to brag, but Coventry have won again, Ben.
You don't want to brag, but you're going to. And yeah, it's fairly straightforward now. They're just, by whatever metric argument you can find, they're just the most consistent, best team in the Championship. They're out there on their own. It's no fault of Coventry. It's quite helpful for them that nobody else is really stepping up. And I just made a note, third place at 1.68 points per game. So it's not like we've had in the past few seasons with, like, obviously 2 teams scoring 100 points and we've had top 4s racing away. But I think the most telling thing for Coventry, they've lost 1 game. You have to score 3 goals to beat Coventry. And West Brom didn't do a lot wrong. They played on the counter. They absorbed much of the first half, where Coventry were actually pretty good. I agreed with Frank Lampard. 2 counter-attacks. The winger crosses to the striker, scores a couple of goals. Badly let down by the red card by Malumbi. But if it was 11 versus 11, it could still have ended in a Coventry win. And I will end with a question to you two.
go on.
What are we thinking if they go to Middlesbrough? Bear in mind, we've had a first against second head-to-head 2 rounds ago, away from home, that Coventry went and won. If they go and beat Middlesbrough, you need to get your little blue and white ribbons out and go and give them to the person who's doing the EFL trophy. They'll be 10 points clear. It's all coming up very rosy for Coventry.
It's a long way to go. Let's all calm down a bit. Gab?
Yeah.
This was an interesting game, actually, wasn't it?
Sure.
Because as Ben mentioned, 2-0 down. Coventry are falling behind in games quite a lot and still winning them.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. I think only a third of the season gone, long way to go, 29 games to play, so let's cool it a little bit. But one thing that I'm impressed with, one thing I'd been concerned with Coventry about before the season, Simon, I think we've spoken about this, do Coventry have the depth to cover when big players are out, in terms of the squad, because it's a little bit thin in comparison with some of the other teams. But I think we've seen the answers to some extent, Simon, because we've seen Josh Eccles come in for Jack Rodoni, who's on the bench on Saturday. And I would have assumed that Eccles might play a bit deeper than Jack Rodoni, who'd often been part of that front 4, if you like, hadn't he? But actually, from what you were saying, and perhaps you can speak to this a little bit, he was actually playing a more attacking, more aggressive role, which speaks to really impressive versatility and, I suppose, the flexibility of the squad.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a massive bonus to have Rodoni back on the bench, and I still think he's our best player. But Eccles brings an energy and a press from that number 10 position. But he's slightly different to Brandon Thomas-Asante, obviously, who's much more of a striker. So I think that's something we could see in these tricky away games. We'll talk about a Boro preview later on in the show. But that sort of thing might work more away from home against the bigger teams and be able to grind out a result almost where we need a clean sheet rather than having to score 3 goals. What are we on now? 43 goals from 16 games. It's
like 120 the projection now or something, isn't it? Can I just come back on I'm just not buying the it's a long way to go narrative. If you win 9 games out of 10 at any point in the season, whether that's rounds 1 to 10, rounds 30 to 40, that mostly gets you to promotion. And looking at what the other teams are doing, if you take out those 10 games, Coventry need 14th placed form over the remaining games to beat the current projection for second place. But so over the remaining games for the entire rest of the season, if you win 9 out of 10, you can be the 14th best in the team, in the league. Let me finish.
Sorry.
And at the moment, you will still finish in the top 2. So, yeah, there's a long way to go, but you can't just say that after a team's won 9 out of 10 games.
I agree. I make Coventry. Coventry have put themselves in a wonderful position. I'm not minimising that at all. I just think when you've got 29 games to play, that's 90 points, 87 points at stake. I think there's a lot can change. I think the points projection for the top two could go up if one or two other teams find form. I make Coventry very strong favourites. But all I would say is sometimes when we say hand the title now and it's all over and it's a done deal.
Half of that's me trying to wind Simon up.
It always needs to be done, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I'll say we're going to win the league.
He's right.
The trophy's in the hands.
Massive margin for error they've got.
Yeah,
I'll come to the middle on that. Yeah,
I will round off this Cov chat by saying Coventry's best ever run of form was winning 9 out of 10 games under Frank Lampard in their whole history back in January. They've now done it twice in 2025, which is just remarkable.
Outstanding.
From Lampard, from the team. And what we're going to do now, I'm not getting carried away, but we're going to talk about the contenders that might finish second, because there's a lot of teams in good form. Looking at the odds with Betfred, by the way, Coventry 2-7 for a top 2 finish, Ipswich 13-8. Middlesbrough 11-4, Birmingham 11-2 in there, and then we go down to teams like Bristol City at 10-1, Southampton at 12-1, and a few other names in the mix. So we're going to have a look at some of the other contenders in the mix and who we think maybe could rise up the league table and finish second. I suppose we should talk about Boro dropping points right this weekend, because Oxford away's a bit of a tricky fixture sometimes. We know what Gary Rowett can do. They're still waiting for Kim Hellberg to get the job permanently in his work permit to be sorted. Possibly a last game under Adi Viovash on Tuesday night against Coventry. What do you make of Boro right now? Feels like they're stumbling slightly.
I think they've got some brilliant defensive foundations, and we've often come back to Morris and Hackney in midfield. But one thing I wanted to talk about was maybe the lack of pace and width in attacking areas. And I think that's going to be first on Kim Hellberg's in tray, certainly for January. Because when you've got Morgan Whittaker, who's a left-footed striker playing on the right, and Delano Bergsorg, who's a right-footed striker playing on the left, it makes the front three very narrow. And it's one thing if you've got super strong attacking fullbacks who are providing lots of width and flying forward. I think Callum Britton can do that to a certain extent. But I just look at it and I think those two are sort of cutting inside, and there's nobody really stretching the play. So it's a little bit easy to kind of force them inward, and then they can always rely on that strong midfield foundations, and they're very good defensively, which is one of the reasons why they're up there. But definitely, I think they've got some bits and pieces to add to in
that's a really interesting point, because they switched to a back four as well. I think mainly due to injuries as well, with Britton at right back and Ayling playing centre back. But if you have wing backs, the narrow front three. Do you think that's been
phoned in by Mr. Hellberg already?
I don't know, maybe he's seen that, but they do have quite a few defensive injuries, don't they? And I think Matt Targett as well got injured as well, which could be key on Tuesday night. Do we think they can stay in and around the pitch? You mentioned it's kind of a low tally at the minute to be in the picture, so it depends what impact he has, I guess.
Well, I agree with Gab that they've almost gone, like when we were talking about Carrick's Middlesbrough, it was, they're too flaky, they're too attacking, they're not strong enough defensively, and now you're probably right, it's a bit too far in the other direction. That might be personnel and just people getting up to speed. There is no argument on the numbers that they are dining off games 1 to 4. Was it when the first 4 on the trot, possibly?
Yeah.
So over the season, obviously they're second. Last 6 games, 13th. Last 10, 14th. So the trend is very, very clearly down. But I've just said in the earlier segment about Coventry, it's not a high standard. So if Kim Hellberg can come in, get things moving halfway between where they were at the start of the season and where they are now, they'll probably stay up there. But I mean, it's quite apt that you have a Coventry and Ipswich and a Birmingham fan on today, because I think they might be worried about the two teams we support.
What a beautiful segue that is, because I want to talk about Birmingham City, Gab.
Sure.
Scoring goals for fun at the minute. Jay Stansfield looking really good. Difficult to gauge where you're at in terms of playing Norwich City at the moment, because they are a shambles, let's be frank. But Birmingham look like they're really progressing, really climbing the table under Chris Davis, and look like they could be in the conversation for a top 2 finish.
Possibly, certainly top 6 at the moment. I think one thing that stands out to me is since Marvin Deutsch returned from injury, it's made a huge difference, Simon, because in the first kind of quarter of the campaign, Jay Stansfield was struggling on his own at top, or he's maybe struggled to find the right foil for him, maybe, because Stano is very much at his best running towards goal. I think he's as good as anyone in that kind of situation. Very quick, good upper body strength, can real athlete as well in the press, and very good one-on-one, as we saw on Saturday. But sometimes it's difficult to create those situations for him when the opposition is quite compact or well organised. And I think what Marvin Deutsch does brilliantly is he occupies defenders and probably offers a slightly higher quality version of Lyndon Dykes. And actually, if you look at Stano's record last season, he scored 10 non-penalty goals, and 7 of them were when he had a target man alongside him on the pitch. So that shows that he does need that kind of foil. I think we're seeing that now.
I think we had an idea in our heads of Birmingham's potential best front four before the season started, and I think all of us would have had Kyogo in it, who's very much a key player, but not really become apparent this season. We thought at the start of the season he was going to be a big signing. He's not really found his way into the team. I also want to point out Damari Gray and Patrick Roberts have been quite key figures, and it seems like that's a really good balance Birmingham have found. Although, as I say, it's one game against Norwich. I don't know how much we can put on that.
You can talk about all your trends and all your spending, but big guy, 2 experienced guys.
And a goal scorer.
And your talisman, Stansfield. And I was really high on Doyle at the start of the season. I don't want to be wise after the event. You can wind back and see what I said, but I think things have improved since he's come in. And who's gone right back? Iwata has gone to play right back. So that's a new look kind of central midfield. It's, people talk about things clicking. It's just so on the nose when you're struggling to score, and all of a sudden, bang, 4 in 3 consecutive home games. And I mean, I know you're going to move us on to Ipswich, but I think you need to talk about the intangible as well. We were talking about this on the Blue Monday podcast. Right now, if you put Birmingham and Ipswich in a head-to-head for the, like for second place, say, behind Coventry, and which club has kind of got the trend up and the good feeling and all of that, it's Birmingham, isn't it? Ipswich a bit burnt by the Premier League, struggling to get things moving, and even in the midweek, the new stadium's unveiled, and this kind of happy version of Birmingham is just still there. I don't think you can underestimate that if it is fine margins, for promotion.
Ben, you've kind of linked it very nicely onto Ipswich, and if you don't mind me asking, taking over Simon's duties a little bit
great.
for a moment.
Thank you.
Please stop him talking about Coventry for 10 seconds, wasn't it?
I did have one question that I wanted to ask you, which was, I think Ipswich are definitely at their best when Marcelino Nunes and George Hurst start. However, on the other side of that, you've got a fantastic squad, and you want to kind of use your options and keep people fresh for the duration of the season. What's your sort of perspective on, should we start the best players who are performing right now, or should we rotate and keep things fresh?
So that's the debate, and a far more qualified guy than all of us can't solve it at the moment, in terms of obviously Kieran McKenna. I made a note of this before we came on. Our 2 golden boot winners here, Smodics and Akpom in that 10, plus Nunes, 0 goals from open play from the 10. Connor Chaplin in the double promotion, just the 42 goals and the 13 assists. Wow. So you're totally right. There's nothing coming from that position. I know we're retreading old ground with year 1 parachute churn and lots of players coming in, but that does seem to be an issue, and you're going to get no sympathy from the other 21 teams in the Championship, or 20 teams, who don't have parachute payments, for fans moaning about people coming with low blocks. Grow up, play against it. Coventry score against low blocks most week, and threes and 4s. So Ipswich just need to click attacking wise, and you can argue it one way that Coventry is a problem because there's only 1 automatic promotion place maybe. But you can argue it the other, that the standard is low and the door is still open from an Ipswich team that's been faltering. Just quickly, Gab, think where we were last year with Leeds and Burnley and Sunderland and Sheffield United. They were all flying, and it's only Coventry. Sorry.
Yeah, I kind of have a theory around the 4-2-3-1 where if you have one of the attacking midfield, only one of the attacking three midfielders can be the quote-unquote the star of the show, and the rest need to be the industrious sort of diligent types that make the system work, if you like, in the main. And so one thing I would have about Chuba Akpom is he was brilliant for Middlesbrough in the 22-23 campaign under Michael Carrick, but that was mainly because he had someone like Riley McGree, who was that industrious up and down type on the left side of midfield, whereas you put somebody like Jayden Philogene there who wants to be the rock star, if you like, that sort of flair player. Does it complement Chuba Akpom?
And remember Gab as well, he and Archer used to switch between the 9, and you almost couldn't tell who was 9 and who was 10, and with Ipswich it's very much, no, George Hurst or whoever's playing the 9 is up there. So, yeah, it is clearly not working for Chuba Akpom at the match. 12 appearances and 0 goals, and we all looked at it, Smodics, and I said it myself, 2 Golden Boot winners, and okay, Smodics has had his injury problems, but yeah, I totally agree with you that he's not found the formula. I'm sure given time and the quality he will, but time ticks very quickly in the Championship when you're in a run of, well, for Ipswich it's 12 rounds, not even 11 in 45 days, isn't it?
I think it's very interesting that we should talk about Chuba Akpom because he was maybe going to Birmingham at one point, wasn't it? Remember back in the summer? That was very highly linked, and it ended up going to Ipswich, and now Birmingham have found their front four. But Ipswich still searching for it.
But if we had signed Akpom, he might have done well individually, but I don't think he'd have got the rest out of Stansfield. So it's all about combinations and players complementing one another.
I'd suggest to McKenna, like I'm some sort of expert, I would suggest play your best four, which I think would probably be Philogene, Nunes, either or on the right
difficult,
wing,
Simon,
and Hurst up front, but and then make subs off the bench.
With the Blackburn game, though, Ipswich are literally going Saturday midweek, Saturday midweek, Saturday midweek, Saturday midweek, all the way to December 20th. And the argument McKenna's always got up his sleeve is, in the double promotion, he properly tinkered in the 3-game weeks and generally won. But, yeah, you do get to the point when it's not working, get your best players on the pitch. If that means Jack Clarke and Jayden Philogene, one of them goes in the 10, get them on the pitch. I can't win that argument against you at the moment. Well, it's not working, can I?
Absolutely. A team we should definitely talk about, from my perspective, for a top 2 finish. They're finally getting going, Southampton, this weekend with a really eye-catching win. I think they're, by the way, 16-1 on Betfred to finish in the top 2. But 4 goals in 9 minutes, 5-0 up at one point during the first half. Tore Charlton apart, who have lost 2 home games now, I think, under Nathan Jones. I didn't see this one coming, but this is the Southampton we expected at the start of the season, Gab, and it's just taken Will Still to be sacked and Tonda Eckert to get hold of them for them to get going.
It's like, maybe to a certain extent Southampton had this kind of day coming because they'd always done well in terms of chance creation, even under Will Still. But they do look a bit different, don't they? The fluency of their passing, the one touch, and probably helped by Charlton being a little bit disorganised. But
little bit is very kind.
Yes,
the goals they conceded.
Being slightly charitable. But they were so incisive there, and I thought Janda looks I think he's been one of their better players in an underperforming side, but I thought he was fantastic alongside Cam Bragg, who's come through the academy. Simon might not want to brag, but Southampton do.
Yeah, very good. But, and also Finn Azaz finally getting on the score sheet with a couple of goals and finally looking like he's playing a bit more.
He looks like the Finn Azaz in his prime from last season. And his movement was excellent. Tom Fellows as well, holding the width. Armstrong looks very potent. And the one-touch football that Southampton were playing is exactly what we expected from them from the start of the season. And Tonda Eckert's delivering it.
You keen on Southampton at the minute? 3 wins in a row. Do you think...
Not as an Ipswich fan, no.
Do you think that he gets the job, by the way, on a full-time basis? Is there the Alan Sheehan...
that's
careful now, or is it just gourmet?
It's a bit different to Alan Sheehan because he was on the staff and then promoted, whereas Eckert, you get the idea. It's a bit like when I heard Brentford talking about Keith Andrews, it was like they saw a potential pathway and just wanted to get him into the system, and Eckert came in as under-21s boss. But doesn't it prove about just messaging and, how the players buy into a manager? 7 out of the starting 11 from Saturday started Will Still's last game in charge. And obviously there's no transfer window. It's the same players, you know.
And we know how good they are. We knew at the start of the season how good they were. It's bizarre how slow they started.
I think, just on the Eckert point, I would advise Southampton board managing this quite carefully. I wouldn't rush into anything. I would kind of let the interim period run out and then maybe commit to a deal until the end of the season and just see where we're at.
To be fair though, Gab, and I know they're in two different positions. We criticised Cardiff for doing that, didn't we? But I appreciate Southampton have got a far stronger squad of players to be able to ride that thing out. As a rule, and, you know, never trust people who oversimplify complex situations. As a rule, I don't like the whole promote the guy who's in the staff to do the job. But there's always exceptions to the rule, and you could work it out. And you're right, in 11 games or rounds in 45 days, you might be well advised just to, especially where you're winning games, just to let it run its course a little longer.
Do you know what it is as well? Sport Republic have a really bad record of hiring managers at Southampton. Yeah. So if you've stumbled upon one, just leave him to it for now. I think you're absolutely right there, Gab. I'm excited about Southampton at this moment in time. Bristol City is the next team I want to talk about because outside of Coventry, they're the only team in the top 7 that won a game this weekend. Ben, I'll come to you first. Swansea, obviously, quite a poor outfit at the minute, but Bristol City are one of them. We kind of expected maybe a drop-off at the start of the season after Manning left. They're doing okay, but again, they're part of a pack of teams where the bar is quite low.
I think they're more tangible than a lot of the other teams, though. Yeah. A, on the basis that they were there last season. Okay, they may have punched their way to get in there. B, Struber is just fun, isn't he? It started with Twine, Mehmeti, Reece, and there's another forward, Armstrong, all started the game. And it's like, you've kind of got two separate front twos there. Mehmeti's in great form. And are we putting the injury crisis to bed now? Because Sykes was back, Borges was back, Bird was back, McCrory was back, Pring was on the bench. And if, as I know you're going to come on to, you know, there's ifs, buts and maybes about a Preston, a Millwall or a Hull, I kind of like Bristol City better than that lot in terms of playoffs or top 4, and they're just kind of popcorny and good fun, aren't they, as well? I
think we might have discarded Bristol City a little bit too easily in terms of, because I think everyone had them mid-table before the season, but I actually like the different stamp that Gerhard Sturber has put on this. I like to I like to go exotic with my pronunciations. I like the stamp that he's put on things, because I think under Manning it was very look after the ball, quite compact shape, manage things carefully. With Struber, I think he's very aggressive, and you see that even with somebody like Zach Viner, as well as, you know, playing 4 attacking players like you mentioned, Ben. Viner is a third centre half on paper, left centre half, but he was very much man-to-man pressing on Liam Cullen. So whenever Cullen had the ball, Viner was straight onto him, and I really like that dynamism, I suppose, about asking a centre half to be aggressive on sort of an attacking midfield player. So really interesting tactical move from Gerhard Sturber.
Absolutely. And unfortunately in the top 6, Stoke, Preston, Hull and Millwall, Gab, all lost this weekend. And we're at the start of a 3-game week, and I don't want to read too much into one weekend result, but I am going to lump them all together in terms of the teams that have been occupying those playoff places that you just expect might have a little bit of a drop-off. Am I being unfair?
Yeah, I think there are going to be teams that... I think there's going to be a lot of movement in and out of the top 6 and within it. I think that the threat of Birmingham, Ipswich and Southampton is definitely going to cause a problem for the likes of Hull and Preston North End. I've seen enough from one or two of the teams sort of in that playoff spot to suggest that they might keep their place, but you know, I would expect a lot of movement.
What about Stoke? Because 2 defeats on the trot now, but one came late at home to Coventry and then a narrow loss, obviously, at Leicester. I think they've got quite a lot about them this season, but again, it does feel like they're in a bit of a bad spell at the minute.
Yeah, you kind of like them better than the other teams we were talking about on the basis of probably a bit more cash at their disposal, and there's the Mark Robbins factor as well. And yeah, you're right. You know, everyone's losing to Coventry at the moment as a rule, and you know, they kind of walked into Leicester a little bit, and at the moment, the only way you lose to Leicester is you give their quality players the ball in turnovers and good position got punished by Mavididi, didn't they, for the first one? But I could see Stoke hanging around. I agree with your point about churn and change there. Literally, Hull and Ipswich play tomorrow night at time of recording. So, I think I'd probably trust Stoke the most out of those, but I've come on here year after year and said never trust Stoke. So what the hell am I talking about?
You trusted them quite a lot at the start of the season, to be fair to you.
I'm a fool, aren't I?
But you're a fool that was right.
Yeah, maybe.
Right, the question I want to finish this top two chat with is if we all think that Coventry are going to finish in the top two. That's as braggy as I'm going to get. Who are you hanging your hat on to make the biggest challenge and get in the top two with them right now ahead of this mental Christmas schedule, Gab?
I'm sticking with Ipswich.
Are you? Reasons?
Yeah. Because I think that Jack Taylor and Azor Matusua, I think is a really strong midfield pairing. And I think that when they have that attacking balance right, I think they're the second best team in the league quite comfortably. I'm going with Ipswich.
Ben, I'm very interested to hear if you think it's Ipswich, Birmingham, someone else?
God, well, the underlying numbers have Coventry, Ipswich and Birmingham as and then Southampton have come in and, like you said earlier, had very high kind of XG and chance creation stuff. Oh dear. If Ipswich do get second, it's going to be like Paul Heckingbottom's Sheffield United, where they were kind of just, my parenting ideology of just be good enough. Do you know what I mean? They'll just be good enough, I think. But you do worry about that intangible of Birmingham and the town and the city and the fan base. If that really gets going, Ipswich could be up against what they were a couple of seasons ago. And I know we haven't got it in this segment. Do you know I quite like Watford?
I love Watford. I love Watford.
Not necessarily for second place, but I think there's some really good individuals. The striker's good. Loser's one of the best in the league. Iran Kunda could be good. They like the manager.
Fatadze hasn't played yet.
Exactly. I just wanted to mention Watford when you were talking about churn in and out of the top six. That could be bonkers championship fare, couldn't it? A Watford push.
I'd have them definitely in the top six. I think I'm big on Watford this season.
Yeah, they've got so much talent in that squad. I'm a huge fan of Nestroy, Iran Kunda. I think he could play in the Champions League. I think in long-term potential, I think his ceiling is really high.
Absolutely. I think I'm with you, Gab. I've said Ipswich all season. I actually think this run of games, mad run of fixtures, might work in your favour to get some momentum built up and start picking up points. But Southampton have hit such a high this week that I didn't see that coming. I think...
Simon, quickly, right here, right now, both of you, if Ipswich don't finish in the automatics, that, given how the season's going and the status as a year one parachute team, that's going to not look good on Kieran McKenna, is it?
Do they win the playoffs, though? If you go up through the playoffs, that covers a lot of cracks.
James Scowcroft said that he thinks if Ipswich go up, it will have to be at Wembley. And the idea of being at Wembley watching Ipswich in the playoffs literally sends a shiver.
If you don't finish in the top six, it's an utter disaster. I'll say that.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah. Playoffs doesn't sound fun, does it?
Never is. It never is. Right, we should also talk about the Sheffield derby that happened this weekend. They ended their run. I mean, Chris Wilder always wins the derby, actually, doesn't he? I don't know what I'm on about. 3-0 at Hillsborough. This was the reason it's so far down the running order, because it was barely notable, and Sheffield Wednesday are just a really, really poor team this season.
Yeah, I think a lot of focus for Sheffield Wednesday is very much off the field at the moment in terms of a takeover and getting new owners and building some optimism for their League One campaign next season. I want to talk a bit about Chris Wilder, because I think he's been sort of a little bit unfairly problematised. I think he's everything that's good about football because of his passion and the way that he lives and breathes the derby. And I think that, there's some Wednesdayites that would have an issue with him. I would love to see them look me in the eye and say that if they had the Wednesday equivalent of Chris Wilder, they would feel exactly the same way. Yeah. So I don't think they would. I think football fans would love to have Chris Wilder. They'll have a go at him if they don't support the team that he manages, but they would love to have that version of them for their own team.
It's Neil Warnock, that kind of mantra, isn't it? Neil Warnock was hated by opposition fans a lot of the time, and when he was at your club, he did a brilliant job. So I think it's a similar thing. Catalyst for Sheffield United, dare we go that far? Has to be.
We've just been a bit burnt by this before, because I think after Ruben Sellers went out, it was right, here comes Wilder, here come the points, and didn't really happen. And he's now lost more games than Sellers did. Callum O'Hare is a real feather in the cap. He's got like 5 goal contributions. So there's a lovely assist again for that first goal. So it feels like at the moment, if Wilder sends them out, keeps it tight, and O'Hare plays well, they've got a chance in games. It just feels too complicated at the moment that they just need to. I mean, I still think they've. I guess Sheffield Wednesday have lost more games now. I haven't checked the table after Saturday, but they've just got to stop the losing mentality and get away from the bottom 3. And there is still a little gap there, and there is a gigantic game between Norwich and Oxford in midweek as well. So I think it's almost that thing of solve problem 1, get away from the maybe real Swansea in the way it's looking at the moment.
But I think, so I put out something on social media, which was, I think this was a huge result for Sheffield United, just because I think losing to Wednesday in the circumstances would have been unthinkable. And there's a bit of pushback because Wednesday are obviously in the situation that they're in. Team-wise, they've not got a very good team. I think that was obvious in terms of what they served up on Sunday. But I think that just psychologically winning at Hillsborough makes such a difference to your season, because it can carry such an important psychological impact for the fans. There just felt like there was so much relief. And I think with Gus Harmer's back, Ollie Arblasser's coming back soon, there's a January window ahead. I think there is a sense that things can ease for Sheffield United if they follow this up against Portsmouth on Wednesday. But they do have to catch, there's Oxford just ahead of them in 21st, but then they've got to try and reel in the likes of Swansea and Portsmouth on 17 points, Sheffield United being still on 13.
I think that's the point, isn't it? Chris Wilder, as we saw last season, kept his team in games and won them by the odd goal due to the individual quality they had. They've got Gus Hamer coming back. He's from injury, one of the best midfielders in the Championship. O'Hare's been really good. There are names in that squad that will nick the odd goal and will provide that moment of magic for them. I think they will be okay. I think they're not going to be like Luton. I think Sheffield United will stay up. We should talk about Leicester City as well, because football finance expert Stefan Borson has claimed that they are in line to receive a 6-point deduction penalty, found guilty of a breach of profit and sustainability. Ben, this is very mundane football chat, unfortunately, when you get down to the nitty and gritty. But what does it mean for Leicester and moving forward? They'd probably take 6 points, I think, at this moment in time. Not for their promotion hopes, but given what it could be, 9, 12, all of that sort of stuff.
I think the Leicester fans just want it done and dusted, because it's been like 3 or 4 years now of knowing that the accounts are in a bad way, and breaches that didn't get punished and breaches that now are being punished. And I think if we come out of this and draw a line under it all, and we've had the jurisdiction loophole closed, which I know Leicester fans had fun with at the time, but that's good for football. If we're going to have laws, we need them enforceable across both divisions. I think 6 points is probably about where we thought it was going to be, and I know if Stefan Borson's probably been through every minutiae in the the weighting of how much money's been lost, etc., etc. I mean, you're right, Simon. We want to talk about players we admire curling it in the top corner rather than Leicester spending too much, and we're still talking about Patson Daka, maybe being an expensive player who hasn't delivered, and that's been the story for Leicester. I think just want to draw a line under it, move on. I don't want to put my tinfoil hat on, but there's probably a reason why there weren't any transfer fees laid out in the summer as well. I'm sure they're working with the EFL on a business plan right now as we speak. And let's just draw a line under it, move on. I hate seeing the table with minus points on it, but it's going to be what it's going to be. We want Sheffield Wednesday and administration as well this season, so we're likely to have 2. But apparently it's going to be contested, so we're not going to find out until next year anyway. But can we just get it done and move on, I think.
I have a real issue with seasons being determined in boardrooms and legal lawyer meetings, whatever, off the pitch. It should be determined on the pitch. And as a very minimum, if we are going to have point deductions, which I'm not in favour of in general, at least have them before the season so that everyone knows what the state of play is. Don't let it
They were charged before the season in July. So if this had been done expediently, that could have been the
I
case,
think it really lets fans down, because then you don't know, you can win a game and not know what the implication is. Leicester have gone on to 24 points, a point outside the playoffs, but they don't know what that's going to be in terms of the point deduction. I remember a situation in 2011 when QPR won, I think they won the Championship title.
Going into the last game, did they? Yeah.
But they found out before kick-off against Leeds, and they won at Watford the week before to secure promotion on basic points, but not actually securing it on, knowing what the point deduction, if there was going to be a point deduction. So I think the EFL have really got to clamp down on this and sort of sort things out before the season.
To be fair to the EFL, remember there's Premier League seasons involved in this too, and I think there's been a lot of improvement from the EFL in where we are with this. But the fact that it's taken this situation for them to actually work hand in hand with the Premier League, and we know the EFL and the Premier League don't play well together, then hopefully we're getting somewhere in my dream little picket fence idyllic football world.
Absolutely. We did this last week and it proved quite popular. So I'm going to ask you for one bold Championship prediction that you think will happen before Christmas. Ben, you got something for me?
So the Southampton win streak goes to 6 or more games, and then they don't give Tonda Eckert the job.
Is that unbeaten till Christmas? That'd be quite a run, wouldn't it?
You only said happens before Christmas, but then for the win streak to go to Christmas would be a Coventry level 9 in a row.
Wow.
So I don't necessarily see that happening, but yeah, I think it might go a little while longer. Cue Leicester beating Southampton in midweek, and then maybe they don't actually make that higher.
How about you, Gab?
I think there's going to be a lot of movement in and around the top 6. I'm going to say, what's my tip going to be? I think Charlton might be in the bottom 6 by Christmas.
Ooh,
there you go.
Damaging defeat.
Hot take.
Can we have something on Norwich though? Quickly, where do we think Norwich are going to be at Christmas? Are we going to get any kind of a new manager bounce and move forward?
I think they'll be 23rd.
Wow.
I don't see. He's a decent manager. I actually respect his career, and I think he's not a bad appointment. But I expected to see improvement against Birmingham, and there was nothing.
I mean, he's only had a couple of days with the players, hasn't he, though? So.
But isn't that new manager bounce instant impact? Want to impress him? Want to do something a bit better than that? I'll tell you
Possibly.
What, Oxford at home, and we'll come to that.
Yeah, I think that's a huge game. Yeah, let's see how they get, because I think that's Oxford are closer to where Norwich are at the moment. So
Can I just say, on that Luton point, which we always reference, and I'm always a bit woolly with the figures, I looked it up. You can really leave this too late. Luton, in 11 of the last 12 games last season, they scored 21 points. They had promotion form.
They were the third best
in the run-in and got relegated. So you can really, really do all that damage in, we're 35% of the way through the season now, despite people telling me there's a long way to go the whole time. But, Norwich could really leave this too late.
Well, it is the flip opposite of Coventry. Coventry get points on the board early, can get promoted.
Exactly the same argument.
Norwich can leave it too late. Right, we need to preview some key midweek matches now, starting with the top of the table clash. Gab, Boro versus Coventry at the Riverside. Tuesday night. Looks like interesting little subplot. Adi Vivash will be in charge of this game for Boro, with potentially Kim Helberg watching in the stands if he gets appointed and announced. What do Boro need to do to give Cov their second defeat of the season?
I think they need to try and
score 3 goals.
Yeah. I actually think defensively Middlesbrough have got some foundations that might be able to keep Coventry out, but I do also feel like they're going to struggle going forward because they need to sort of find something to freshen things up, whether it's bringing in Sverre Nipan, whether it's bringing in Sonche. I think it's players who can sort of freshen things up a bit, but they certainly need to strengthen in January. But for now, I'm going to struggle to see them scoring past Coventry, so I'm going to go 1-0 to the Sky Blues.
Even with the defensive shakiness recently of Cov, you'd say?
Yeah, well, I think Coventry have created a lot more chances than their opponents in their games. I think that sometimes there's been a lot of games, and you can perhaps speak to this, Simon, where Coventry have been the better team early on and then had that sucker punch in isolated moments and maybe been a bit unlucky in that respect. So I'm going to back Coventry for the clean sheet at the Riverside.
What about you, Ben? How do you see this one?
It's just so hard to not see Coventry winning, isn't it? Because we can only go on the evidence of what's been happening. If you remember the first segment of this show, the narrative for Coventry and the narrative for Middlesbrough, you put them together, you end up with a Coventry win, even at the Riverside. So unless, I don't know, they can parade Hellberg before the game and, the game against Birmingham, where potentially if Rob Edwards hadn't gone before that game, it's a different result, isn't it? You get the stadium up and running, but how can you not see the logical patterns all point to Coventry going there and winning? So I'll double up with Gab.
Do you think the AD factor is notable, a big one? Do you think he knows the strengths and weaknesses of these Cov players, and can he take advantage of that?
Everyone knows the strengths and weaknesses of the Cov players, but they've won 9 out of 10. We're in a... I know Vivash will know personalities, real details, but it's the Arjen Robben argument. Everyone knew what he was going to do for 15 years, but if you're executing well in football, there's knowing what Coventry... Everyone knows what Coventry are going to do, and they're better than anybody else at doing it at the moment.
I simply cannot back Coventry to win away at Boro and go 10 points clear at the top of the Championship. So I'm so far on the fence. I think a draw would be a good result. I'll go for a 1-1. I think both teams would be quite happy with a draw as well, but Cov haven't drawn many games this season. Hull versus Ipswich. Gab, I'll come to you first again on this one. Hull, difficult defeat for them from 2-1 up against QPR to lose 3-2. Ipswich obviously draw at home to Wrexham, but have won their last 2 away games by 4-1.
Yeah, I think Hull, they've actually, although they're sick, this is an unusual quirk, Hull have actually conceded the most shots in the Championship.
And 27 goals.
And 27 goals, yeah.
What a league.
So it's a bit of a strange one, because I was actually expecting that if Hull were to be, surprise a few people and be above the bottom 8 in the Championship this season, it would be because of their defensive strength, because when I spoke to fans in the summer, that looked like the stronger area of their squad. But they've asked a lot of Ivo Panda this season, but they've also been very strong going the other way with the likes of certainly Joe Gelhardt, who's been in sensational form for them. But I do think that defensive issues is going to be an issue for them against an Ipswich side that I think if they bring in Marcelino Nunes and George Hurst, I think Ipswich have got what it takes to carve Hull open.
Score?
I'm going to go 3-1 to Ipswich.
I think big away goals are on the cards again, based on the fact that Hull concede a lot of chances and Ipswich have very good forwards.
I love this. There's definitely both teams to score, isn't it, in this one? And surely, if you're Ipswich, you'd much rather play Hull than Wrexham, wouldn't you? I will reveal on my predictions with Sam Park, and I went 3-3
wow.
in this, just for sheer Championship craziness. But it should be, Q 0-0. It should be a really attacking game, shouldn't it? Surely with Jukirevich and McKenna.
Yeah, absolutely. This is it for Ipswich. Ipswich are going to get going. They're going to continue this unbeaten run, Ben.
Mate, I've heard you say that before.
And we have to come, I think, to the most crucial game of the midweek round of fixtures. Norwich versus Oxford, Ben. My word. I think I said on a preview show, if Norwich can't beat Oxford at home, where does that leave them?
Well, and if they lose, what would the...
9 in a row losses at home, I think that is.
There'd be 8
comps.
points adrift.
Yeah, I was
going
to ask the gap. Yeah, that would be... You've got big problems then. So, go figure. I can paint you all the outcomes here. You can have the new manager bounce, Norwich get the win. You can have the unhelpful draw, which probably looks like Norwich taking the lead and Oxford scoring from a set play in minute 91 or something. And the disaster for Norwich. And a lot of their defeats, they could go 1-0 up and then lose the game. But a Rowett ball 0-1, you can literally see all of them, can't you? I mean, the poor, long-suffering Norwich fans. Let's go for the new manager bounce, because they are bang in trouble if they don't win this. Let's go Norwich 1-0.
I don't think there can be more than one goal in this game, really. I can't see it being an open affair, as we said about Hull and Ipswich. I think I agree with you, Ben. I think Norwich have to win. There's nothing less than a win will suffice here. I'm not confident in them, but I just think Josh Sargent might get a goal. Gab, what do you reckon?
I'm going to say 0-0, because I always feel like a Gary Rowett team is...
nervy 0-0, yeah?
Yeah, I think a Gary Rowett team is never too far away from a clean sheet, and I think Mikael Hellick and Kieran Brown have been fantastic for Oxford, and I also think, I think we might come on to him later, Brian de Keersmacher in midfield, I think is a really class act. So I think Oxford with Volks, Brannigan and de Keersmacher in midfield might just be able to stifle Norwich.
Those long throws as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Not a game for the neutral, though. Not a game for the neutral at all, but massively important. I nearly forgot to do the quiz question for this week, guys. So stay with me. Producer Seb's come up with this one, and it is about Championship postcodes, where their stadium are. Okay. So, Ben.
Thanks, Seb.
Starting with you. Which team plays at CV6 6AQ? Maybe I should.
Coventry City, surely.
There you go. 1 point on the board. Gab, ST4?
ST4. I am going to go with Stoke City.
Correct. These might be quite easy, actually.
Okay.
You should know this one, Ben.
Is it IP1?
It's BB2.
Oh, BB2. Is it Birmingham?
Oh, it's Blackburn. You said you were
I was
there
the other day, wasn't I? To be fair, I was in Darwin, not Blackburn, but yeah, I should have got that.
PR1, Gab.
I am going to go with Preston.
Correct. It's 2-1 to Gab.
I would have said Portsmouth for that as well, so he would have been 2-up.
Ben, this was a bit more tricky one. TS3.
Oh, Middlesbrough.
Correct.
Dissect, yeah.
Yes, very well. Good. Good. So what's that? 2-2. Gab, PO4.
Oh, that's Portsmouth.
That is
Portsmouth.
Portsmouth.
Very easy.
Yeah. Ben, S6.
S6.
Do you want S6 1SW?
That's Colchester.
S6. Oh, Swansea?
It's Sheffield Wednesday.
Oh, for God. And they talk about S6 as well, don't they? Yeah. Oh, idiot.
BS3, Gab?
BS3. I am going to... That sounds like Bristol. I'm going to go Bristol City.
That is correct. I hope
he's battering me here. Come on.
A last one for either of you. Ben, SE16.
Oh, Crystal Palace. No, Millwall.
Correct. And last of all, Gab, LL11.
LL11. I am going to say... Is that Leicester?
Oh, it's Wrexham.
Oh, God, that was a tricky one, wasn't
That's
it?
good.
Yeah.
Well, thank you both. I think Gab took that, though. What was it, 5-3, something like that? I lost count of the score.
I had the league table in front of me, so I was sort of... I don't know if I'd have got it off the bat. But there you go.
Thank you both for joining me, as always. We'll be back later in the week for the Sportsman Untitled Extra. Make sure you like and subscribe and get your comments in. Score predictions for Norwich versus Oxford, the key game of the midweek. But we'll see you then.